And then at some point I heard the surgeon's voice, and all I heard him say was, "You got stage 4, girl." It is currently August 3rd. We are 6 days post-op. Perfect time for us to dive in to my results. To be honest, I don't think my body really knew that I was going into a surgery, because I just had so much peace, so much excitement. And I think that in itself is like an answered prayer. Even though I had so much time to anticipate this surgery and think about it, I didn't. I really didn't. And then all the food and flowers and balloons and text messages and support and prayers just started flooding in. And I feel like that's when it started to kind of click that, oh, I just went through surgery. I'm the one going through this, and I'm the one who volunteered for this. It's just been a whirlwind of emotions. And so I'm very, very thankful that these flowers are a constant reminder of just how loved Alex and I are. And again, just all the support we have and all the people who are just praying for baby Harrington. Whenever God decides to bring them into the world, it's just gonna be so cool. So cool to introduce my future children to these people who love them just as much as I do. And so we have a lot to dive into. And honestly, most of this video is probably gonna be me still just processing out loud. I'm just gonna be word vomiting, and I'm gonna be telling you guys my endometriosis story. It's still crazy to me that this is where we're at. So let me catch you up to speed. They made 3 incisions plus 1 in my belly button. I still have all the scar tape and bruising to show for it. But as of tomorrow, I think I should be able to take off the scar tape. So even 6 days out, I feel like my body doesn't necessarily look completely back to how it was, especially those first few days looking in the mirror. To be honest, I was like afraid to look down or afraid to look in the mirror, because again, I think my brain was in denial that this was all happening to me. And so yeah, even now, looking in the mirror, it doesn't feel completely like my body. I still think there's a lot of like bloating and inflammation during these past several days. Like the swelling has definitely gone down, but it still just doesn't look like how it was. And I know that's normal. Again, I have to remind myself, I went through a surgery and like they found some stuff. Spoiler alert. They found some stuff, and so my body went through some stuff, and I just have to learn my limits. I have to let my body heal itself. And honestly, I've been like just so curious about how my body's gonna respond and how it's gonna react and how it's gonna look. So that's been like a interesting learning experience, to just even learn a new pain tolerance and just seeing how quickly my body can adjust and recover. And I feel like being 6 days out, I'd like to think I've been making a speedy recovery. Don't get me wrong, even though I've had my days and I've experienced a lot of discomfort with the bloating, and I've had really bad back pain, or even sleeping. That was a hard adjustment those first few days. I feel some tightness, almost like things are gonna rip if I move the wrong way or if I move too fast, which I know is not gonna happen, but that's just how it feels. So I've definitely had those days, but amongst all of it, sitting here now, I just know it could have been way worse. I know that was still God's grace and God's protection and healing work to get me to where I am today, which I genuinely feel like I'm like 92%, like almost fully there. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to get back to just moving faster. I'm excited to get back to driving. But let me just tell you even more about how good God is and how he really, really blessed this whole situation. I can look back now on the surgery and see last weekend as a huge God story. And I'm so excited to share it with you guys. God is still the one in control. God is still the one who's gonna open my womb and give us children. But he definitely was loud and clear during this whole surgery. And man, I just feel extra encouraged and extra loved by him. Because if you've been following my journey and following these videos for some time, I would say majority of these past 3 years, it's really felt like God has been silent. I mean, it is what it is. I don't say that in a negative way or a positive way. I just say that in a reality way, that it just feels like God has asked Alex and I to just keep waiting and keep trusting. So we've listened. That's what we've been doing. We've been patient. We've been doing our part, making the appointments, going to the appointments, leaning on wisdom. And a lot of it has just felt like we've been operating on faith. We've been taking lots of leaps of faith and just continuing to trust God and trust that he'll make it clear on his perfect timing. And so to go so long, so many years without feeling like we've heard loud and clear from the Lord, to go so long operating out of that kind of uncertainty and just faith. And then this past weekend, when prepping for the surgery and then going through with the surgery and now recovering from the surgery, like it was like God was coming through time after time, minute by minute. He was answering, and it exponentially grew my faith in just this week of how close I felt to God, how near he felt to me. And I don't think I really realized how far away he felt until I went through this, and just seeing how God came through for us in more ways than one. I joke, but I was telling Alex the other day, like, I feel like God's back from vacation. Like, he's back, and he made himself known this past weekend and even this week, and just through all, you know, the support from our community. Like, he came back with a vengeance in the best way, and it just gave my faith and my hope and Alex's hope a whole new boost. And I am also documenting it because I don't want to forget these little God moments, because it's so easy to forget when all you see sometimes is the struggle, is the banner of infertility. I need to keep reminding myself that God is still here. God has not left, and God is still with us on this journey. Nothing has changed in that regard. We knew this surgery wasn't going to solve everything, or, you know, we knew there was a risk that it wouldn't even give us answers, but we were willing to go through it. And we just felt like that's where God was leading. And so even now that we're on the other side of it, like that, it doesn't change the fact that we're still relying on God. We're still asking for clarity. We're still praying for our miracle. But knowing what I know now, it's like, maybe we got our ultimate answer after all. Before I get into the actual results, I can't help but tell you guys a little bit of the mini prayers that God answered going into Monday morning for my surgery. So to keep this all concise, I will say that after leaving my blood work appointment on the Thursday before surgery, a little tiny fear in my mind was born about whether or not they would find my veins for the IV. So I was like, okay, great. It's gonna be fine. They're trained in this. They're gonna find my veins. So I was just trying to not think about that and push that thought aside. And so then Friday comes around and we have our pre-op appointments, and then I learned that the IV is not going in my arm like I was thinking. It's going in my hand, which I've never had before. So there goes little fear number 2, saying, what's that gonna feel like? Because from what I've heard about the hand, it's not the best. Again, these people are trained in it. They're gonna find my vein on the first try, and it's not gonna be painful. It's gonna be fine. What I also learned about in the pre-op was that I have to do what was basically like a 24-hour fast from food. So that was another little fear of like, can I do this? Am I gonna be miserable? Am I gonna be starving? Oh my gosh, how am I gonna get through this? But again, just trying not to entertain that thought and just push it to the side. But then also, in my pre-op appointment, I learned that I have to do this bowel prep, which I was warned about. I was told about by these other girls who had done this before. But what I had heard about it is that, you know, brace yourself. You're gonna be in the bathroom all night long. You're not gonna get sleep. You're gonna be dehydrated. It's gonna be uncomfortable. You're gonna be crampy. You're gonna be bloated. It's not gonna be a fun experience. So another fear was created of, you know, am I gonna survive this now? Like, what is this gonna do to my body, and how is this gonna feel? I've never done something like this before. And then on top of that, because I have this weird, unexplained issue of me swallowing big pills, I was like, dare I look at the size of these pills for the bowel prep? Because in pre-op, they told me that they were pretty big. So there goes another unnecessary fear of, are you gonna even be able to do the bowel prep? Are you gonna swallow these pills? Because let me tell you, it wasn't just 1 or 2 pills. It was 12 pills within 30 minutes. So like I had to be chugging these pills. And for someone who takes forever to even swallow one like bigger pill, I was now worried about this bowel prep. So I tried not to think about it until the time came. Thankfully, all day Saturday and most of Sunday, Alex and I just had time to hang out, explore Jacksonville, and we just had such a great time. Like, I actually feel like we were able to make a little bit of a vacation out of it, and we had some good food, and the weather was beautiful, and we just had lots of quality time together. And Sunday rolls around, and I have my last meal before church, and we go into this random church service. There was this one particular worship song called I Trust in God by Elevation Worship. And it just hit different that morning. Having all these little fears going into, you know, the day before this big surgery, which I still hadn't even like comprehended at the time, let alone just the layers of infertility leading up to this moment. And there's a line in that song that says, I sought the Lord and he heard and he answered. And when we were singing those lines in the church that morning, not only did it feel like this hopeful piece of encouragement going into surgery the next day, but it also kind of felt like a dagger and a reminder that I've been seeking the Lord and I don't necessarily feel like he has answered us yet. Even though everything in me wants to doubt God and run from faith, my bones, my DNA knows better, and my faith still chooses to declare these things even in the midst of a time when I don't really believe it or feel it. And that is what faith is, because it's just this push and pull of like, God, I do trust you. I believe these words that I'm singing. I believe the words that I read in the Bible, but also I just don't feel it. Like, it feels like you've been silent. It feels like you haven't answered any of our prayers over these past couple years. Like, what do I do with this feeling? And so I had a good cry. Then I got to hang out with my parents and Alex and my nieces and nephew. And then the bowel prep started. And Alex so graciously chopped up the pills so that they were easier for me to swallow, which is so ridiculous. But you do what you gotta do. And God gave me the strength to just down them all. I don't know how it happened. but we did it. So that was one fear that automatically went away because I'm like, yes, Lord, you let me swallow these pills. Like, great, step one is complete. And then as the hours were going by, I'm not even thinking about food. It was the weirdest thing, y'all. I don't know how to explain it. Food is always on my mind. So that was a little answered prayer as well. And then once the bowel prep is setting in, I'm not miserable, I'm not uncomfortable, I'm not bloating, I'm not in pain, I'm not crampy. I was still able to enjoy this night with family and be fully present with them. And so I feel like that just contradicted everything that I had read and everything that I was expecting to happen. And so again, the Lord just took that fear away instantly. So I was like slowly but surely getting these little boosts of encouragement and like seeing God so clearly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he is answering these prayers back to back. So then Monday morning rolls around and honestly, I'm still not even hungry. We got to the surgery center early. We checked in, everything was quiet and peaceful. My parents came, they brought me flowers and balloons, and I wasn't even nervous. I still had so much peace. So then they call me back. I get all geared up with my gown, with my heart monitor, with my compression socks and these like calf massagers. Take off all my jewelry. They do one more urine test to verify that I'm not pregnant. And next step was the IV. So I'm taking my deep breaths. I'm not trying to think about it. I'm trying to make small talk with the nurse. And sure enough, she puts the IV in and I barely even feel it. That was just a little blessing for sure. And once I got the IV in, all that was pretty much left was this dang surgery. So after the IV was in, then Alex could come and sit with me. My report time was 10:50 and they took me back pretty quickly. I want to say it was like 11-ish. And then surgery was like 12:30-ish. I was just at that point feeling so encouraged that we were almost at the end. Like, I was just excited to get this over with, and I was just so thankful that the IV went in well, that I wasn't hungry, that I now had fluids, so I wasn't dehydrated anymore, and like we had made it to the finish line. So Alex stepped out so my mom could come back. She sat with me for a little bit. She prayed over me, and then Alex came in one more time. I met the anesthesiologist, and then it was go time. So I said my final goodbyes to Alex, and we actually had to have a conversation about my organs. You know, if they in fact found some endometriosis, and depending on how bad it was, like worst comes to worst, like they'd have to remove an organ or take something out, take out a fallopian tube or an ovary. Like, I needed to give consent for that beforehand. I basically told him, like, take out whatever they need if it's like a life-saving situation. But if it's not life-saving, like, I'm okay with maybe taking out my fallopian tubes, but I want to keep my uterus and I want to keep my ovaries so that I can still make my own children and carry my own children, Lord willing. So yeah, they started rolling me back to the operating room, and at this point I thought I was just going to be asleep for all this. So this was still just a very new experience for me, but I've been trying to see it as an adventure this whole time. So I'm trying to take it all in as they're rolling me away, and I'm looking around the hospital, and this lady comes around. She told me I'm gonna start putting in this something Xanax. And I was like, okay, what is that gonna do? And she said, oh, it's just gonna make you feel relaxed and kind of make you feel like maybe you have 1 to 2 drinks. And I literally remember, like, as she's putting it in, and I'm like, I don't even really know what that feels like. Like, I don't drink. Like, I'm trying to have this whole conversation with this lady when I probably should just be focusing on what's about to happen. So she moves me into the operating room, and I see all the lights, I see all the machines, I see all the nurses. The lady next to me is like, okay, like, can you move over to the operating table? So I like scooch on over, and then another lady leans over and she's like, do you want to listen to music? And that question was music to my ears. I literally said to her, like, really? I can do that? And she's like, yeah, so we got anything, name your request. So you already know. You already know. I requested some worship music. Like, what a better way to go. And I remember hearing the song, and next thing I know, I hear, Jean, wake up. How are you feeling? Are you feeling okay? I swear, like 99% of new people I meet call me Jean, and it's fine. I've embraced it. Okay, I've had 31 years to embrace that. And surgery went by in the blink of an eye. And then at some point I heard the surgeon's voice, and it sounded like he literally just popped his head in because it was such a quick interaction. And all I heard him say was, "You got stage 4, girl." Excuse me, what? So let me break that down for you, because they grade the endometriosis on a 1 to 4 scale. So what that means is they found endometriosis on my bladder, my colon, my ovaries, my uterus, and both sides of my pelvic wall. So could this be our cause for 3 years of infertility? You tell me. Yeah, it was a hard one to digest, but it's been this mixture of like gratitude and vindication and just shock. Like, what does this mean? Like, what now? I've had this living in my body for who knows how long, and life has been fine, and I've felt fine, and like no one was concerned, and now all of a sudden they found something, and they didn't just find something, they found it everywhere. I had endometriosis. Like, just that confirmation alone is kind of liberating, right? Like, Alex and I have been searching and praying for physical answers this whole time to just explain what's going on and why we can't get pregnant when everything else is checking out healthy and good. Like, we've accepted for so long that we would just have no answer. And we've been living out of that headspace for so long, and we had peace about it. Unexplained infertility, like, that was me. And that was just gonna be our story. And now to sit here and have that door reopened to the possibility that, wait, we might have actually found the reason why nothing's worked? When everyone's told us there's just no reason? That's just a crazy thought to process, because I already accepted that we would have no reason. I already accepted we had unexplained infertility. I was okay with that. I had peace about it, and we were making steps to just get pregnant other ways. But then for God to like drop this bomb is crazy. And so not only does that like provide a possible explanation for everything we've been going through, but this will hopefully just help like my future daughters and like future generations of my family line, because it can be genetic. So it's like, this is just helpful information to have on my health record. So it's just a lot to soak in. I warned you, I'm still processing, and this was gonna be a lot of word vomit. So if you're still watching, thank you. I just didn't realize I had so much more to say, to give context, and just to share with you guys other than the results themselves. I also don't want this to be an hour-long video, even though I feel like it could be deserving of that, because what Alex and I just went through, not just this past week, but these past 3 years to lead us up to this moment, it was a lot. It was a lot. And there's a lot to say about it, because it's just been our life. And another nurse comes in, and she was so sweet. And she was like, "Janae, can you open your eyes? Like, your hubby is pacing in the lobby. Like, I need you to open your eyes so then I can let him come back here." And I do remember saying to her, like, "Oh, I don't feel like it." I was so tired. And she kind of laughed, and she's like, "Okay, well, if you want to see your hubby, you gotta open your eyes." And I'm like, okay. And so before he came back, she was like, "Do you need to use the bathroom? Because you can't really be discharged until you use the bathroom, just to make sure your bladder's working." So she waddles me over to the bathroom. I go right to the bathroom. Alex came back at that point. And it was just, I would say it's all a blur, but like, I feel like I kind of remember everything, like before and after the anesthesia, like, and I think that's God just like allowing me to remember these things and remember these details because his hand was over it all. Before the surgery, my one last mini prayer request was like, God, just give me the energy after surgery to at least enjoy the rest of the night and eat a good meal. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind, like, am I just gonna wanna go home and sleep? Which obviously would be totally fine. Like, hello, you just went through a surgery. Hello, you're on anesthesia. But I was just like, come on, God, do me one last solid. You know, like, I just wanna have energy. Let's defy the odds and let me just feel well enough to at least be with my family this last night. And when that anesthesia wore off, I had so much energy. I had so much energy. I just wanted to talk to everyone, be with everyone. And so we stayed up all night and I felt so good and well enough to even go out for a nice celebratory meal with my parents and with Alex. And I even felt good enough to go on a walk after. And we came back to the house and just stayed up till like 1 in the morning talking and just processing everything. And then I went to bed. And I even still had so much energy. God answered that prayer for sure. And it's just so cool that I have these little tiny nuggets surrounding this surgery to remind me of like, okay, this is what it feels like to hear God. And this is what it feels like to have a prayer answered, and not just 1, 2, or 3, but I feel like over like 24 hours, it was like 6 or 7 prayers answered back to back to back to back. And I just felt like I was on such a high after Monday. I was so encouraged. And yes, I do know I was still on some pain meds, but still, my brain was thinking very clearly. And I just felt so near to the Lord. And I was just so excited to tell everyone how the surgery went, because I knew there were so many people praying for us and just like waiting for the results. And so I feel like God wasn't just answering my specific prayers, he was answering the prayers of others. And I just couldn't wait to tell them so that they could feel encouraged and they could feel close to God and they could feel like God heard them. And it just felt like this giant boost of hope for my community. And I just kept thinking for those first few days, like, I want to live in this feeling. Like, I never want to forget this, because it had been so long since I felt kind of like that refreshment from God, that closeness with God. I know there's a season and a time and place for everything, so I knew this was going to be a temporary feeling. And then we come home and I'm still feeling pretty good. My mom drove down to take care of me and just help with some stuff around the house since Alex had to go back to work. And they prescribed me like ibuprofen and then Percocet for just pain. And I never really felt pain. It was more so just like the discomfort that I was talking about earlier. And so I would try to take like half doses if I ever needed to, but I feel like it's been a quick recovery. You guys know, I've known about endometriosis for years. I knew what it was, I knew it existed, I knew it was a very common cause of infertility. So even in my conversations with friends or with medical professionals, no one brought up the concern that I could have it, solely based on the fact that I don't have any textbook symptoms. I don't have terrible periods. I don't have any crazy pain. I don't have these classic symptoms that most of my doctors were trained in. My OBGYN, primary care, even my fertility doctor. Like, so even though endometriosis would come up in conversation, like, never got to the point where people were concerned or people wanted to explore that option for me. And so me kind of being naive at the beginning of all this, I trusted them, as you should, and I didn't know any different. And so I was trusting God more and trusting that if that was an avenue he wanted me to explore, like, it would come up at some point, right? Like, if God wills for something to happen, it's gonna happen regardless of what people say or do. So I know this whole surgery came at just the perfect time because it was on his timing. And it all started if you guys remember a few videos ago, me mentioning that a few of my old like high school friends came out about their infertility journeys on Facebook. And because of their bravery and vulnerability and opening up and sharing a very, you know, sensitive topic, I was able to connect with them on this level and realize, wait a second, maybe I should revisit this whole endometriosis question, because these 4 women who shared their story are very similar to mine. And what if this is God finally getting my attention, finally providing some sort of clarity after all this? And what if this is my next step? And I did what I had to do and reached out to the clinic that a few of these girls recommended. Thankfully, it was in Jacksonville, which is not too far from us, and we have family there. So I also took that as like a little nudge from God that like, okay, see, he's already even providing a place for us to stay. So it didn't take me long to feel pretty confident that I think this is our next step. And it led us to finally scheduling a laparoscopy to confirm for once and for all if I have endometriosis. And I sit here today and say that I did. I mean, going into the surgery, the surgeon, the nurses, the doctors, they were all pretty confident that I had endometriosis, not based on textbook symptoms. No, because these were specialists. They knew to look for the little nuances, the little underground symptoms that traditional doctors aren't really trained in. And because this particular surgeon does these procedures, he basically said, based on the fact that I have a low egg count with my biopsy result from last year, and then they did this other like random measurement of my uterus. It was a little bit larger than the measurement that they like to see. Because I had those specific little things, the surgeon was confident that I had endometriosis. Imagine if my fertility doctor would have pushed for me to have this surgery before I even did any IUIs. Like, imagine if my OBGYN, before even referring me to a fertility clinic, suggested that I go this last route so that we really check off all our boxes. Like, what would our story be like now if we would have gotten these answers and took this route back then? Those are just the what if questions, but it's not actually how I feel, because I know everything happens for a reason, and we had so much peace. We've had so much peace over these past 3 years, to be honest, that like, no matter what was coming our way, I knew it was gonna be from the hand of God, and I knew there was going to be purpose in it. And there's been purpose in these 3 years. There's been purpose in all of our waiting, all of our unanswered and answered prayers. There's been divine purpose in it. And so I've never questioned for a second when things have happened, what has happened, what we've gone through. It's just all a part of the bigger story. I mean, if you were to ask me before surgery, like what I was expecting and what I would think they find, I was more so still just hung up on the fact of like, are they going to find something? Because there's still a slight chance that they find nothing, because I don't have these textbook symptoms. So of course, there's still that little voice leading up to all of this that is like, is this worth it? Am I really about to put my body through all this, all my family through this, my mental health, our finances? Because I had to advocate for myself this whole time and fight for me to get a laparoscopy done, because no other doctors were pushing for it. It wasn't until I met with the surgeon and these nurses at the Jacksonville clinic where they made me feel more reassured that this is the route I should be taking. So in one regard, I'm thankful that they did find stuff, but I was still just wondering like, God, am I really hearing you clearly? Are we sure this is where you guided us? Like, even though we have so much peace, like, you still kind of doubt yourself, right? I think it's only human, like, but here we are, and we went through with it. And, you know, Alex says maybe he was expecting them to find like stage 1 or stage 2 endometriosis, but I don't think anyone was expecting stage 4. Even the girls that I know that had gone through it, they were like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3-ish. So they were just as shocked as well when I told them about my results. So I have more motivation and passion now to really share my story and really spread the word about silent endometriosis, because you truly just never know. And so we had a follow-up last Tuesday with someone from the clinic, and I asked her, like, what now? Like, as far as lifestyle and diet goes, like, is there anything I should be aware of so that this endometriosis, heaven forbid, you know, comes back? And she was basically like, no, like, they went in and cut it out, so it shouldn't grow back. So to also just process me having stage 4 endometriosis, but then me also no longer having it, is also a crazy thought. This whole journey has just been crazy. So if you're out there and you've been struggling with infertility and no one's been concerned about endometriosis, or maybe they have been, and maybe you've just been hesitant about exploring that a little more because you're worried about the risks or this or that, take it from someone who didn't even know I had it. I'm so thankful that I have this clarity now. I'm so thankful that I have these answers, not just for our fertility journey, but like I said, for my future family line. I just feel like that alone makes it all worth it. It was worth all the risks, all the little fears that I had going into it, and I'm just thankful and hoping that God will continue to use my story and my voice to educate others, but also inspire other women in my same shoes to advocate for themselves and just don't give up and trust the Lord the entire way. Because even if it feels like he's been silent forever, eventually he will speak. And of course, the elephant in the room is, what now? What does this mean? You got the endometriosis out. Like, you should be able to get pregnant naturally now. Like, what are you waiting for? Yes, that could be true. You know, I don't want the results of this laparoscopy to now erase everything God has taught us over these past 3 years. So it's not like now all of a sudden everything I know and everything my faith is telling me goes out the window, and now we're just gonna try naturally and I'm expecting to get pregnant on the first try. Like, no, my focus is still on God and where he wants to guide us and lead us. And yes, God could use this laparoscopy to finally give us the answers we've been wanting, and we could now get pregnant naturally, and that could very well be our story. But at the end of the day, I still have a low egg count that I can't ignore. So fertility treatments could very well still be in our future. Like, all of this stuff doesn't just disappear. I'm very aware that we could still struggle. I don't know what's gonna happen next. But I keep saying the story gets better and better, so I hope you'll stick around. But I feel like no matter what we do from here, hopefully my chances of getting pregnant naturally increased, because we know my body is good, and we know Alex's body is good. So it's still just a matter of time. We're still waiting. Like, the season isn't over, but it does feel like we're getting to the end. And that's a very real feeling that I haven't felt before. And I don't want to get my hopes up too high now, but it's a good feeling. And I think we're one step closer to that very day when we get our miracle. And I can't wait to celebrate with you guys.